Hello, my dear friend, and welcome to the Spiritually Engineered Podcast, where we take a deep dive into the human experience from a spiritual perspective. Come on in, and I invite you to stay. So for this week's episode, I'm going to talk about the spiritual year and actually go more in depth and expand on that since I mentioned it in the previous episode. And if you tuned into that, well, here is my follow through and promise to explain that. So when it comes to life on Earth and understanding the mechanics of living life here, living in two worlds, one of the obvious things is that we go through cycles. We go through a lot of transitions. And think about it from the perspective of as we go through each month, each day, each year, each season, even when we look at the holidays and moving through those energies, uh, thinking about when I mentioned the seasons, even just from like that spiritual big picture perspective, there's also the element of astrology. Personally, I'm not too much into the astrology. I mean, I think there's a lot of validity to it, but personally for myself, I don't work with that in my own spiritual work. But nevertheless, it does have significance because it touches on the cycles. When you're mentioning about planets and the phases of the moon, looking at the cycles in that way. So all this in observance of our natural world expresses the reality spiritually that we always go through cycles. Even when you look at our own, so even when I look at our own evolution, when we go through stages of life, we all go through cycles in our journey while we're here. And every 7 years or so is when we transition to new cycles, new stages of our lives. And everybody goes through it and is affected by the energy, the theme of each cycle. Although I'm not going to talk too much about that. That's normally something I could save it from the episode, and that's something that I teach in lectures and in Way Shorts College programs for people who are searching. But again, just this whole theme of cycles, right? Just wanted to kind of set that energy for this episode. So there's the calendar year, but then there's the spiritual year, and what I've come to understand. And typically, in the spiritual year, there's like a big wave of energy. Again, just like the common things, like the other examples I mentioned, is that we all move collectively, globally, through a wave of energy. So for the spiritual year, which started September 1st, at least at the time of recording this video, we're already into it now, and it goes all the way up to August 31st. And the folks at the Way Shorts College, we have a team that work together to channel and to put the inspiration into to make it practical, putting it into words so that people, other spiritual seekers, can utilize the channel information for themselves, right? And that's getting into the part of why I want to share this particular episode with you. So this is something that, if you tune in, if you check out the resources below and check out the Way Shorts College website, they offer some of this information there on there through the meditations. And also if you're involved in we've had like a little celebration, like a little Zoom meeting for people who are members and affiliates of the college, just coming together and just, to share, reflect, regroup, and set our energies in a lot of ways. And it was pretty cool. I even got to do a toast for the entire group there, which was like completely, I was just like put on the spot, and I was like, all right, well, let me try and do this. And so, and it worked out. So to start off, with the theme, right, with the energy that we're moving through, when I mentioned the team that puts it together as far as like the inspiration, right, into words and organizing it, usually it gets compacted into like a word or a phrase that captures the essence or the theme of the energy that we're moving through in this for the spiritual year, right? Starting September 1st, ending August 31st. And so for this spiritual year, we are in what's called Spear of Inspiration. Spear, as in Spear, Spear of Inspiration. And I want to take this time to kind of preface this. So I have like my notes of what I'm going to talk about, because a lot of what I'm going to be sharing is based on the channel information and insights that that the president of the Wade Shores College shares, because he helps channel insights and messages from spirit. And he always has these points, periods of time throughout the year where at least once a year, where he'll kind of give a talk and give some inspiration, some channel information about important insights, which for the many of the purposes is the one of it's just like you could treat it like a spiritual forecast. So like, and this is something that I want to preface with you, is to to treat this episode like a spiritual forecast. And so I'm going to be basically sharing from what he shared, what resonates with me, and kind of go over some of the points here on for this episode, what I have here in my notes. And then you as the listener, where I guess where you fit in this is just whatever it is that I share, right? Whatever it is that resonates with you, that you can relate to, then use that as an opportunity. Know that there's some relevance to what it is that I said that stimulated you, positive or negative or whatever, related to the whole spiritual year. You could say it's a piece of the puzzle, a piece of the clue in terms of their spiritual forecast for what this spiritual year is going to be about for you specifically. So it's not like everything I'm sharing is applying to everybody. Like everybody's going to, I'm just giving my perspective, what based on what my friend and mentor Tiger, when he channeled information, when he gave a talk about the spiritual year, what he sensed, what he's been picking up. I'm just so we're clear, I'm just gonna just share with you what resonates with me. And then I trust that if there's anything that resonates with you, anything that you took away from, that's I know I've done my part. And it's up to you to decide what you want to do with all that. And if you need some guidance on that, feel free to check out my show notes, where I have linked some important and really good resources and tools, working with intuition, working with your spirit guides, if you consider that for a moment, as a stepping stone. If you're not really sure what to do with all the information, I mean, you could use it as a way of reflecting and journaling to expand it even more. I mean, the possibilities are endless. You know, um, Something else you could probably do that I would suggest is, anything that I share, set some intentions for the whole spiritual year. You could set some goals, particularly spiritual goals. And when I say spiritual goals, are the intangible. Like, for example, a spiritual goal, that I would set sometimes, especially like on a particular month, is to have patience with myself in the process. Just saying that as an example, right? You have your own e- examples you can do for yourself, your own goals, but I'm just helping to kind of make it simple and easy for yourself. Okay, like, okay, because it helps to have examples, right? So that way you know what the parameters to work with, instead of just like this the broad stroke, and it's like, all right, well, this is having parameters does help, at least for me, when it comes to navigating and trying to make whatever it is that I'm working with practical. So I'm just gonna be I may be all over the place. I don't know how this is gonna go, but I'm just trusting and just channeling myself or what just comes through. And but just know that this is coming from a place of what's resonating with me, and I'm gonna be covering a good amount of stuff. So, like I said, whatever resonates with you, if anything, then that to me would be an indicator that there's some relevance there to you, and it's up to you to decide from there. Again, what are you gonna do with that bit, if anything, right? So that you can navigate the year with clarity, and also with a sense of awareness as well. because like I said, this is the spiritual year is energy. It affects us globally. It's not just, and also, and what not just globally, it also impacts your personal life, your business life, and your social life. Think of it also in that aspect as well. So take all this with a grain of salt, and just and just take a moment to just to hear my 2 cents on all this, and what I got from, like I said, my friend and mentor, what he shared, and what from that, what stimulated, and what's something that's been on my mind, what I'm thinking about, and perhaps things that I might be setting my energy towards for the year with intention. And and I do believe that setting some intention and having some kind of a clear direction of where you want to go without the getting all the specific details pinned down, that can do a lot. And there is protection in direction. So if you're feeling directed, there's no reason to be worried or concerned about the future. And in fact, there's more about just being aware and open to what may come up to support that direction. And so this is kind of segueing. This is kind of going into my one of the first points I want to talk about is direction. And for me, I know it's important at this stage of my life is to be really intentional about what it is I'm doing, and really make sure I'm not doing things on autopilot, and that I'm carrying myself with a sense of like, okay, I have somewhere I want to go. I have somewhere where I want to be, right? And to focus on, my purpose, where I need to be, the people that I need to interact with, the work that I need to be involved in. All this is to say to be in the business of me, the business of me. And you can be in that business in your personal and social, mind you. So I don't mean business like strictly business transactional. I mean just connecting it back to my purpose. I also want to take a moment aside also as well, that as I'm sharing all this, I'm going to share in the I perspective. But sometimes I might say you, and I'm very intentional about this. But like I said, but because of some of the stuff is like my experience and how I feel about it, of course I'm going to use the word I. If I'm always talking about, if I know I'm talking about my experiences and how I see things, I rarely use you or they or we, because I can only speak for myself here. Anyway, back to the back to the breaking down speed of inspiration. So having clear direction is important. Why? Because I know in the past, for me, I've gotten caught up in a lot of FOMO, or the fear of missing out, or getting everything that the internet, technology, the cell phone, where there's been a lot of misuse of that within myself. And these are just habit patterns and things that I've had going on for a long time, and something that I think that we all share. We get into these distractions, we get into like mindless entertainments. Like I know I do. I'm not saying this applies to you, but I know that I do. And so the importance of having that clear direction is essential, because it may make the difference between feeling fulfilled or feeling frustrated, or feeling like I've missed the mark, or just that lack of fulfillment, really. And for me, something that I've been thinking about is having more sincerity within myself to be loyal to my direction. Because in this planet, there's so much to be involved in, and many of them are not in my best interest. I can get involved in a lot of things, but when it comes to the essentials, and it really gets on to like talking about one's own needs, they're usually very few, less than a handful at a time at least. It's never all this has to be done right now at just it's never like that in my experience. And so it's important that to consider also for a moment as well. Why is why direction is important? Well, one big picture is this: you're here to learn and grow. You're here to learn and grow. Planet Earth is like a school. Everybody has come to this plane of existence for the common purpose of evolving, expanding, leveling up, if you will. That's a common ingredient that we all share because this system here is a school. And with that, there are people here who are coming from various states of awareness, various states of consciousness. And so everybody's going to be at different places in their lives. And there's no one greater or lesser. We just are, we all are came to the school to experience our own life curriculum that ties back to our purpose. And when we experience life, we're going to experience a series of life. We're going to experience life situations that are there to help us on our path while we're here in the school. We all made a decision prior to incarnating into a physical body, prior, to being here physically in this school. And so I want to preface it with, at least with that, as I'm explaining about having clear direction, right? You don't, like, this is like how I show up for life. And this is what I believe. You don't have to. If it doesn't resonate, well, that's fine. It's not for me to say. Again, I'm gonna probably keep saying that throughout the episode because I just want to keep it clear here. It's about what resonates with you, how you interact, what has meaning for you is all important for you, not for me, not for anyone else. It's because it's whatever it is because it has meaning to you. It speaks to you. It speaks to your soul. So, clear direction. Very important and something that I need to work on because at some point I find myself like, there's so much I could do and there's so much that I want to do. But I never ask myself often, but I've caught myself and I have this, and I've just became aware of this of like, Alvin, what are your priorities in life right now? What are your current priorities? And I'm still working through that. And mind you, when we're going through this process, much like life in general, everything's a process. And, our progress and our growth, and moving forward, it's always by an inch. Just like how when you look at the growth rate of living organisms, it happens progressively, gradually. It's never like overnight, boom, boom. A larvae becomes like, uh, or like a caterpillar. It's not like a caterpillar becomes a butterfly overnight per se. It happens through a period of time before then it's like that metamorphosis, and then that takes a certain amount of time, and then the transformation happens, right? It's gradual. It's not. So I say that to say is that wherever you are, and if you're someone that's very concerned about your own growth, personal growth, is to have patience. And for me, what I found in my experience is that I tend to be doing a lot better than I think. And I have my own inner critic to thank for it, for that kind of line of thinking. Like, oh, I'm not doing enough. I'm not where, because I have some areas where I want to be spiritually for myself. But going back to talking about the one spiritual key you're here to learn and grow, everybody has their own timing. And we can understand things intellectually. We can understand so much, right? Our intellect has enabled us to do a lot of great things, like building rockets and going into outer space and things like that. But when it comes to the growth, our own growth process, you can't rush it. You can't rush your growth. You can delay it, right? I know I can delay my growth and I've had in the past, but I can't go faster than my own spiritual timing. And that right there is just a reality. That's part of the laws of the universe, which you and I are one with. And if I start thinking otherwise, or like, oh, trying to like outbeat it or outpace it using my intellectual mind, when I do that sometimes, that's in my head. Then at that point, nothing's gonna happen. If anything, I'm just gonna create this inner resistance within myself, this inner gnawing, GNAWING, inner gnawing, where it's just like there's this grinding and it's not smooth. and I'll be out of my own timing. And so when it comes to the idea, the concept of spiritual timing related to growth, this is very important to be relaxed, at least for myself, to be relaxed and to trust in that whole process as I'm moving through. Because I mean, this happens to me once in a while. It happens to me sometimes where I get impatient. I lose sight, I forget. But when that happens, all it takes is just, all right, let me just come back home. And I utilize different techniques from feeling my own energy to cleansing myself, or breath work. Think about your own practices that are geared towards cleansing, where you come back home to yourself, right? Because you are an individual and you are a solar system within yourself, amongst other solar systems. So your home is within you, which is connected to the universe out there, right? We can easily tap into at any point in time. It's often referred to as the kingdom of heaven. Me growing up, that's something that was shared with me. And what I've come to find when it comes to the kingdom of heaven is that the kingdom of heaven, it's right here, right now. And oftentimes when I find myself suffering and living like feeling like I'm in hell in that vibration, oftentimes because I'm in my intellect. I'm too much into my head. I'm caught up into these ideas or concepts that are not helping my well-being. In fact, they're disrupting my well-being. And yet by me focusing on it, I'm giving up my power and energy to those things, disrupting it even further, disrupting my inner peace. And one of the challenges that many of us share collectively, in my opinion, has to do with our intellectual nature. Our intellectual nature is the part that wants to analyze, dissect, understand why things are the way they are. Our feeling part is our feeling nature is where our intuitive is, where our psychic part is, or the part that is connected with everything, that has that sense of belonging, right? So that's where, just to give you a little bit, explain a little bit further, science was born from the intellectual nature of man. Religion was born from the feeling nature of man, to give you some perspective. And when I've experienced turmoil, or when I'm having issues in my communication with my spirit guides, or I feel disconnected from my intuitive self, almost always, like 99.9% of the time, it's because it's my intellect out of balance. Or actually, it's not. Okay, I'll say this. I want to say, because this is also another out of balance state as well too, where it's like too much developed my feeling, but not so much into my intellect. So I really, it could be this or the other, right? 50-50. Although I'm not saying exactly it plays out for each individual, but 50-50 in the sense of it could either be this or that, in terms of if I'm out of balance. So like the intellectual part, when I'm too intellectual, where I want things to be proven to me, or seeking things outside, validation or whatever, searching for the answers outside when I have them within. That's the semi-intellectual. And the out of balance feeling parts, the other side of the coin of the out of balance nature, is when I'm just kind of doing things. It's like I can help other people, but I can't help myself. It's like I'm kind of moving all over the place, but I don't have a sense of clear direction within myself. And to move in balance is having an intuitive sense of knowing, being able to, maybe a picture or an understanding or a feeling of where I'm at right now, having an awareness of where I've been, and having some sense of an awareness of where I'm going. So it's almost like being connected and working with in balance with my past, present, and future. That's moving with balance, right? Working with the past to draw from the wisdom, practicing it in the present, and then setting the energy from the future, the intentions, understanding like, okay, I have these needs, which requires digging, taking the time to journal, reflect, to really discover, okay, what are your needs? Even for me, it's a process for me. I'm not perfect on all this. I'm always just this ongoing process of like, what are my needs spiritually? What do I need for myself? And there are situations where we may need particular needs at a certain, at any given moment for a period of time. It's very, very dynamic. And that's why it's important to really practice awareness and just to be open to what's coming up. And this is why, I mention all this and it can feel like a lot, and sometimes it is a lot to me. And this is why we have our spiritual helpers, our spirit guides, who are there to accompany us. And we chose them as well. We chose our team before incarnating into a physical body. So what I've learned is that my team has strengths in areas where I'm weak in and that I need to work on. Areas that I would say I chose to want to work on this lifetime as my opportunity, the big picture of things. And so we don't have to go through this whole process and grow alone. We have the assistance. Now, no one can help grow for us. That's the part where we have our responsibility to ourselves, right? No one can level up your state of consciousness but you. And what that requires is just to be involved in your life, to take action. Again, to work through your past, present, and future with mastery as a practice, right? All this is a practice. It's not about getting it right and getting it perfect. That's like the antithesis of life. No, what life is about is to make those stepping stones, make those mistakes, mess up, make a mess. Because as long as you're taking a moment to look back on that with attachment, with compassion, with love and forgiveness, and you're able to discover the wisdom from that, you take that and you're good to go. And then you refine. And something that I've learned, especially from like my last work opportunity when I was doing cleaning, it reminds me that when I'm in the flow of doing, when I'm in the flow of involvement, and I take that time to evaluate what I've been doing, especially like in this cleaning job, of like how of how I clean, I notice very much so the difference it made, or I notice how far I've gone from when I started the cleaning job, and I've only been in that job for like a year, give or take, more or less, and to where I was when I was wrapping up that opportunity. I was taking a moment to regroup that whole year for myself. And it's tremendous that I've made a lot of cool changes. I upgraded how I showed up. And this is all practice for me. This is something that perhaps I don't know if you've practiced, maybe you practice now, or if you don't worry. You can start right now. Just start now. Start today. And you'll be back on track. You'll be well on your way. Just start now. And that was another thing that came up for me, because sometimes I can put off a lot of things, especially things that I know that need to be done. And one of the reasons why is because it makes me feel uncomfortable. Sometimes I get inspired and something comes up and I overthink it, and then I start to dissuade myself from doing it. Like, oh, I don't know if I can do it. I don't think it's going to be worth it. I just like all that's when I start putting in these excuses to not be involved, to not give myself the chance to have an experience that could help me make strides in my own journey. So much so that I did say when it comes to growth that you can't rush it. But what I find is that when I'm in that flow and involved and doing and trusting, I've had periods of my life where I've accelerated my spiritual growth. Now that can happen because, to me, I think something about that is that I am moving with ease. It's like my path ahead is super squeaky smooth. And so thus it creates that opportunity to accelerate farther than I would have by any other means. What would have taken a year only took a month, or maybe a week, or maybe a day. It can happen just like that. And time is like this thing that's just part of the earth game, but it's not like that out there in the universe. A whole lifetime goes by like the blink of an eye, to give you perspective. In the blink of an eye, a whole lifetime just can just go like that, you know? And to even give you some perspective, when it's time for us to go, when we pass on and we go back home, we'll reconnect with our spiritual helpers and we'll take a moment to just regroup that whole entire lifetime in a way that's simple. Like, what were your highlights? What were your accomplishments? And this is kind of getting to the big overarching, the meat, not the little nuanced details, like, oh, I did the dishes or not. No, no, no. Like the big picture from that perspective, a lifetime. And then from there, it's like, all right, where's the next venture? And the possibilities are endless. The universe is so big and expansive. But for the sake of this life, we're focused on Earth. There's not necessarily any reason, or it's not practical to get so caught up in out there in the universe. Although there are tools and techniques that I've learned and used where I go back to source to gain, for the purpose of gaining insight, to gain insights into my current situation. And that's the purpose that I think it can serve. Anything beyond that is just like becomes an escape. And that's something I want to kind of tie back to for a moment, mentioning the word escape, coming back to direction, and why I want to, I don't know if I said it, but I'll say it here. Why I think for me this year is to be really important to be loyal to my direction, because there can be a lot of escapes. It could be in the form of like food, binge watching TV shows, or for me, video games. Even though I enjoy playing video games a lot, ugh, I can recognize moments when I'm using it as an escape and I'm robbing myself of greater fulfillment. I'm saying this to own up to it, and it's my own process. At the time of just, recording this and sharing this with you. Hope to be at a better place later down the line. We'll see. So I mentioned planet Earth is like a school, right? And there's always opportunity, and that there is no greater or lesser opportunity. Now, there's a saying that I want to apply here because it's very important, that I think it's going to be to take note of for the spiritual year, at least for myself, at least. Believe half of what you see, nothing of what you hear, and everything that you feel. And that's going to be really important because oftentimes I've had experiences, particularly the unpleasant ones, where because of the fact that I'm experiencing them and that they're unpleasant and I'm outside of my comfort zone, there's this intellectual tendency to want to judge it, where I get caught up in what I'm just physically seeing or physically feeling or physically hearing, where I blind myself from the bigger picture spiritually of what I'm getting out of the experience, or rather the opportunity. In working with my spirit guides, they look at my situations with a sense of neutrality, and they can see things from a higher perspective, a bird's eye view, where perhaps I might be judging something and seeing it as bad. They see it, they may see it as something beneficial. Another reason why it's important to connect with your spirit guides. At least I know why I practice working and connecting with mine, because I know they have that bigger picture. They can see and know, understand what's happening, and they can see it from a very simple framework. They see through the complexities that our thinking nature can make us try to fabricate, and just when we're going through these experiences. And this is why they are very essential in our partnership, in our team. But I also want you to consider that you don't just have a team of spirit guides assisting you. You're also a part of the team, where you are a part, you could say, an instrument of God to help uplift, to help free, to help heal the collective journey, the big picture. That's also something important to for you to I want you to keep in mind too, is that you have a place in this world. You are an essential part of your total environment, and if you don't think so, you're being a hypocrite. Like for me, I know that I'm an essential part, and it's not about narcissism or thinking or this idea or this ego mentality. When it comes, how can I phrase this? Because this is a very important thing. There's this idea of like loyalty to self, and that you came to this planet to get your own needs met. We all have needs, much like we have physical needs, like using the bathroom, getting some sleep, eating, nutrition, all that stuff, exercise. Spiritually, we have needs that tie into our own lessons and what we have to experience. So we have that, and it's our responsibility to honor that, and that's that loyalty to self. And we have to make sure we give to ourselves as we're being of service to people. And there's this balance where everybody's essential and no one's greater or lesser than. And I don't buy into this idea of selflessness. I think selflessness can make for a good technique in certain situations, but it doesn't make for a good way of life. Because after everything is said and done, there has to be a place you come back to. Where you go back to when you forget yourself and you're helping somebody? You just stick with them, or do you remember and come back that, at least I'm gonna say this in the eye, or do I remember and come back to myself knowing that, hey, I still got my own life to live. Yes, I have moments where I interact with people and I can give of myself and help out where I can. But for me, I always recognize that I have to have that place within myself that I come back home to and take care of myself. Because it's from taking care of myself that I can put my best foot forward and be the best of service to other people. It's like I have to, it's like making that connection with people and to help to like make those calls, right? Think about like a phone. I have to make sure I charge my phone. Otherwise, I can't make more outgoing calls. And those connections with people to be of service, to be of healing service, to fellowship with, to interact. I need to recharge, right? Again, think about the body. The body needs to, we have to get some sleep, right? Spiritually, the essential part is we have to recharge ourselves spiritually. And so that perspective there is like you are an essential part. Again, it's about you're as equally as important as everybody else. My main thing is that as you give of yourself to people, just why I mentioned the self and I pivoted from there is just that I don't want you to leave yourself out. Because I notice that sometimes for myself, it can happen to me. I notice now I'm kind of saying you, but like I said, if it resonates, great. Take that in. If it doesn't, like whatever. Cool story, bro. Just wanted to interject a little bit to kind of catch myself, but then again, I'm being very intentional here. So whatever, again, just sharing whatever I'm sharing when I say you, I recognize I'm also talking about myself. So uh, this little mirroring that happens. Anywho, we're all essential, we're all important, and that I just think it's important that we don't leave ourselves out, because then there's burnout and there's all these types of things. There's irritable pessimism. There's a lot of list of laundry list of stuff that can occur when we leave ourselves out, and one of the big ones is lack of fulfillment. And if you ever felt that, then that's just an indicator you've been leaving yourself out. And let this be a moment to just invite you to, perhaps you can set that intention to set that space for yourself and create opportunities, manifest opportunities for fulfillment for yourself. And working through, okay, and so living life, one of the many other aspects that I touched on earlier that I think is going to be important, at least again, the setting the intention for myself, are routines. Routines is a reality. We're faced with them whether we like it or not. We're always going to be going through a day and night cycle. You can fight it all you want. You can feel some type of way, but you got to go through it. You've got to go through it. And because of that, like when I know I have to go through it, because of that, then I know that I have a choice. I can look to and see how great of an opportunity that I have any moment, any day, or even just today, right now, when you're listening to this, and just moving forward there and taking those conscious steps forward. Like, okay, I'm another day, another adventure with this openness and desire for opportunity. And when you're seeking opportunity, it's like you're giving of yourself to others or whatever you're involved in while also giving to yourself. That's what makes an opportunity because it's win-win. There are no winners or losers in the world of spirit. And so going back to the routines, one of the things that I'm wanting to make sure and be intentional about that I make sure I practice is that, are my routines helping me build towards where I want to go? Or am I just doing them just for the sake of doing them? Because part of what I think is living spiritually that resonated with me that someone shared is like to enrich my everyday life and to transform the mundane experiences into miraculous. Sometimes it just is a matter of recognizing and seeing the miracles in the mundane experiences. Taking a step back for a moment and just observe, like, hold up, where am I? Oh, let me get out of my head for a moment. Let me be here present right now. I can understand and see why mindfulness is such a very important tool and it's been something taught and it's a lot of resources and it's something that's talked about very often. Because I know for me, I can get myself out of where I'm at, the kingdom of heaven, mind you, that I shared earlier. The kingdom of heaven is upon us right here, right now, right here, in this present moment, that will always be. And yet, the worries, the concerns, the over concern, the fears, the stuff that gets me trapped in my own head, where I'm too much into myself. And that's where I realized that I know I need people in my life to get me out when I'm too into myself. I'm too caught up in myself. When I mix with people and I talk and share and fellowship, hang out, it helps me to get out of myself and to shift back into that balance. The win-win, the give and take, a lot of things. And so it wouldn't be right to, and always talk about the theme, the spirit of inspiration, and not talking a little bit more about inspiration. And that one of the things that I want to work on as an intuitive, as someone that knows that I have an intuitive part, is to know when to lead and know when to follow. Follow my intuition, follow God's guidance, follow my spirit guide's guidance, right? Follow where I feel this gentle pull, right? Very also gentle, or even just a gentle nudge, or where I feel genuinely curious, this childlike curiosity. And to follow that, leading is when I take the seat of I take the helm of my ship and I go forth. In other words, I take actions, I take the steps. One of the things that when it comes to manifesting, I come to find is that the more clear I am within myself of what I want, what I need, the easier it is for the universe to be able to send it my way. If I'm unclear, then the universe won't be able to do much because I'm not very clear on that. There's so much to get involved in, right? It can get so much, I want to say pollution, because there's so much going on in this planet, so that pollution being one of them. And that's why I think it's important, I know for myself, to always have that very clean and clear within myself. What is it that I want and need? What are my priorities? And always take a moment each day to pivot off that. But mind you, I go through my moments and times where I forget that and I get caught up. I get involved on my phone playing video games. Like I have my versions of it. Do you have your versions, or are you aware of your version of it? So to really thrive for me, I think in the spiritual year is to really work with leading and following and knowing when I need to switch. Like a dance. Like this beautiful dynamic dance between me and my guidance, where I'm like being really aware as the one of as an essential tool and as an essential ingredient to be aware. Like, oh, okay, I need to lead here. Oh, okay, I need to follow here. Much like when you're dancing with somebody, even whether you're leading or following, it's like it's an awareness and really stepping into one's own flow. Like I know for me, you can't, like in that process of dancing, much like in the dance of my guidance and working with my spirit guides, can't get intellectual about it. Gotta feel into it. Gotta feel into the rhythm. Gotta feel into the flow. Feel the rhythm. But one thing that I've learned about my guides as well too, to expand a little bit more, is that when I get things clean and clear within myself, then all I have to do is just take the steps. Like like my guides have shown me the path before me, and then all I had to do was just walk the steps. Sometimes because of that, it feels like literally like the path is being laid out before me, and I'm just like, all right, well, my part is just let me go ahead and take this left step, left, right, left, right, left, right, and that basically the how behind what you want and need. Basically, it's like keep it. It's like what I've come to learn that is it's none of my business what the how is. The how will work itself out as long as I do my part and take the steps when I sense and I'm aware of the opportunity. I take it. Boom. Like to me, I'm getting this feeling of like this choreography or this coordination of just like, okay, move here, move here. Okay, I'm aware. Okay, again, this awareness piece is very important, to build that awareness within yourself, to build that awareness of your own unique communication system. That's really what psychic abilities are about. Communication, really. We can get into, I know I used to get into like this Hollywood thinking of psychic abilities, but really it boils down to communication. So just building that awareness of your communication, much like how you pay attention to like your what you say, how you say it with your voice, right? But then it's like how you communicate with your presence, how you communicate and how you do something. Because that right there speaks more volumes than the content of what you're talking about, the content of your words. Whether it's in my relationship with my spirit guides or my relationship with people, I've learned that it's really boils down to 50-50. And in my 50%, my part, I put 100%. I give my all. And that is also another, what I think would be what makes it successful in my relationships and in working with my guidance, you know, um, is that 50-50. Because I've learned that my spirit guides are not going to cater to me. They're not going to take away my troubles or anything like that. They'll offer solutions and help empower me to overcome my situations. They'll give suggestions on what would help, but they'll never tell me what to do. Just how I know collectively, our spirit guides will never tell us what to do. That's not what a high soul is, a master soul. One who's actually lived at some point in their life here on this planet, and through their own situations, excuse me, they outgrown and mastered everything that they needed from this school. And that's another reason why they're useful, because they've been through what we're going through in a lot of ways. Not to be taken quite literally, but in a lot of ways similarly. When you look at it from like the spirit of or the essence of, what are the commonalities of what they've experienced and mastered and what I'm going through and in the process of mastering myself. if you do your best to follow the guidance within yourself, or to follow the guidance of your spirit guides, your spiritual helpers, you will be on a trajectory of success for yourself. And I think that's a very important thing also when it comes to success, is that success is on your terms, not anybody else's or somebody else's concepts, but it's on your own terms. So, if you haven't, like, if you're listening at this point of the episode, and I've been like this, following my intuition and making it a practice, and because of that, it's led me to have a lot of successful moments in my life, and we're always progressing. Even when we've experienced something successful, it's not the end all be all. It's more about the process and gauging how I'm doing. Am I being successful now? And maintaining that as best I can as I'm moving forward. And I want to take a moment to just mention that if you want to make your intuition practical and work with it so you can be more successful, I invite you to check out the resources in the show notes here as well. I'm going to slip that in there again. Because I know for me, I can forget sometimes, and those reminders are very much appreciated. At least I appreciate it. And another thing as well that's been coming up that I need to do better in is being more intentional about what it is that I inflow. In other words, what it is that I take in spiritually. You know, I'm sure you heard about when it comes to nutrition, and people always talking about make sure you eat good foods and don't put in unhealthy stuff in your body, processed foods, fats, and all this stuff. And yeah, that's true. And for me, it's like learning, making sure that I don't take in processed spiritual, or like process, like the spiritual crap, if you will. Like the things that aren't really doing much to me, they might be sucking my energy, they might be distracting, they might be like an escape, like a drug. And it could be anything to like mindless entertainment, drama, anything that can be so divisive, right? Like the news, for example. Like there's a lot of things happening in the world, and this is one of the reasons why I think having that clear direction is going to be essential, because there's a lot going on out there. You go on social media, you look in the news. I'm sure we were in agreement that there's stuff going on, and it can be easy to get caught up in a lot of stuff. And unless I can make whatever it is that I have concern over practical, then it's a waste of my energy and my time. Like, okay, what can I do about it? It's almost like it's like framing it like I am I gonna how am I gonna reply, or will I reply or will I react? Will I work with or will I fight or resist? And there's everything. There's a place for everything. And I think for me is just I'm at a place where the most impact that I can do for myself, given that I'm one individual, is just to share from my own experiences and be an example, right? And just like, because there's only so much of our energy that we can give throughout the day, so much of our time. And if we start worrying about this and this and this and this, all the injustices in the world, then we get so caught up and we forget our own needs and what we need to, and we forget the whole purpose of life, and then being in this school. Like all this is like opportunity for people to grow at their own pace. Like this is not something I'm gonna try to convince you necessarily, but this is something just kind of my take. And I know there's a lot of places there's when it comes to activism and doing all those important things, and I definitely do acknowledge that they help. I think that whatever it is that you're involved in, whatever it is that you're doing, whatever you feel like is your calling to be of service, just to make sure that you're giving to yourself, you're feeling you're getting fulfillment out of it just as much as you're putting into what it is that you're doing. And if it's like activism or social justice and stuff like that, that's great. I just think for what the stuff that happens and the discourse over what's happening in the world, so much energy gets wasted in just anger, judgments, all these emotions. And it's not constructive at all. It's not practical. So I guess I mentioned that because, again, like, I know for me, if I'm not careful, I can get caught up in the wrongs and all this and stuff like that. Mind you, I know my spirit guides don't see it that way. They see it completely different because they're from a higher perspective. They have this big picture. I mean, I don't expect you to understand it. Like, even sometimes that for myself, I don't get it all the time. I'm not perfect in this, but I have some sense of some awareness. I have some consideration here. It's just important to just be super clear where it is. I know for myself, where do I need to go? Where do I need to put my energy so I could be the most effective? Because where I direct my energy can make all the difference. Where I take action as opposed to where I don't take action makes all the difference. For the sake of, loyalty to self and honoring one's own needs. Another thing that I feel that is important, that I do my best to build my routine so that it helps me. How can I put it another way? Making sure what I do daily helps me feel renewed every single day. Because I mentioned earlier, like, our routines, we go through it whether we like it or not. I go through it whether I like it or not, and I can fight it and hate it. It's like me arguing at the waves, at the ocean waves, and saying, "Don't move, stop moving, ocean." Nobody argues with the waves of the ocean ebbing and flowing, right? But when I start getting so caught up in my day or get monotonous or all of this, that, that's basically what it looks like. That's the equivalent. But instead, I'm choosing to just flow with the routines, and flowing in such a way that I know I'm getting my own needs met. And I know one of those is getting some good amount of sleep or developing a healthy sleep schedule. But again, there are a lot of opportunities. I don't know if you're aware of, perhaps, what are ways that you can help feel a sense of renewal, or maybe there's some practices you can add or remove or improve so you can feel refreshed again, so you can fill up your own cup. But there's a moment that, where sometimes I feel like my cup is too full, where it starts to feel like there's this overflow. And I think in something I'm learning to make practical is that I'm taking action and doing something rather than getting too much into my head and taking in a lot of inspiration and ideas, and not. It's like to really put in and take action on a lot of stuff, and even just doing simple things. And for me, it's like looking to exercise to be that tool to help me work through when I feel like I'm overflowing. And also, me sharing on this podcast is another way for me to empty my cup of what I'm getting as well. I think is at least for me, I think it's important that I'm working on. So stuff, especially like if I'm going through something and it's kind of presenting a challenge, to give myself a break from that, do something else, do something simple, right? Like, I know for me, like, I go for a walk. Like, if I'm done something and I'm just kind of like, oh, I feel burnt out, I feel some type of way, or if I've been indoors all day, I'm like, I need to get the f out of here and just go for a walk. I need to do something. I need to move. Like, movement itself is something that I value because that helps move out stuff. Anything that's stagnant. To me, that helps me empty the cup in a lot of ways for myself. It's just movement, embodiment, dancing, movement. Movement, excuse me. Okay. And no matter what happens, I'm gonna start to wrap this up here. I'm kind of feeling that energy here at this point. And I think something that is important to bear in mind is that there's always going to be new experiences to be had, a lot of stuff coming up, both I'm sure in our own personal lives, and then of course from like a bigger picture in our community, in our society. But when it comes to everything spiritual and what I've just talked about, is that it always is that simple. Especially when it comes to like what I consider the basics and fundamentals, and when I share about the spiritual keys. Like, one of them that I share with you is like, we're here to learn and grow. Another one is I am energy. you know, and looking at examples like that, and from that to what we do day in and day out, I think it's important to always keep it simple spiritually, or oftentimes it's the acronym for KISS. Because stuff will come up, as I said, and it's amazing how my intellectual mind will try to like come up with this or fabricate something that tries to complicate the things that aren't meant to be complicated, or try to complicate what's simple. When it comes to understanding, like, navigating life, working through our own our challenges, taking care of our needs, listening to our heart, taking the time to just move things out, express, yeah, like a lot of important mechanics here. I feel like I'm not necessarily doing a good job explaining here, but it's like there's a lot of aspects like that that I feel like it's what I've always been reminded of are is the simplicity of things, the fundamentals, much like the fundamentals of, like, taking care of yourself physically, like, how when you get potty trained, and like the food, nutrition, like the fundamentals like that, but like looking at it from the fundamentals of the spiritual perspective, because there are fundamentals there. And my intellectual nature will tend to try to, like, again, complicate things out of fear or worry because of whatever it is that's got my attention, that I'm like hooked on. So it's really like being more intentional about where your attention goes. Be more intentional about where you spend your time, what you put into your body mentally, what you digest in that way, not just physically. And it's almost like being intentional about who or what you surround yourself with, from looking at what you have in your room to the people you spend time with. And that's up to you to decide for yourself what to do with that. You have that information. I don't, but I'm sharing with you as a point to evaluate and just recheck, because those can create an obstacle, or can create bumps on the path that could be smooth in your journey. Suffering is optional. Growing pains are normal, and the bumps just can create, in my experience, unnecessary suffering. And that's because of, for me, of what I surround myself with sometimes. Not who necessarily, but what. And so, to close this episode, all of this I share, all this to say, when I mentioned that planet Earth is like a school, right? Following our own intuition, experiencing the life lessons that we need to for our own growth, taking opportunity, going out of our comfort zone, being of service, meaning giving to ourselves as we give to others, reflecting, regrouping, drawing wisdom from our past, practicing them in the now, applying them to the future. Well, practicing them in the now, setting our energy and our intentions forward. Like all this for our journey here, our human journey here on this planet. you know the big picture is that we all know collectively that all the material stuff we're not going to take with us, but there is something that we do take, and that's simply what we've put together for ourselves in our experiences, the learning and the growth from the involvement and practice, and living, working through all of it. Is That's what we take with us, what we put together, the intangible, the growth, feeling more lighter, feeling more freer in situations that normally would have stressed us out, that would have paralyzed us, that would have made us feel so caught. But now it doesn't have a tighter hold on us anymore. In fact, it may not have any hold on us. And that's when we expand and unfold and acquire a higher state of, of awareness, and with that also freedom. Freedom. And to even put it in simple perspective as well too, one of the roles of our spiritual helpers is to help free their brothers and sisters from the bondage of ignorance. So, I mean, when it comes to our our spirit guides, our spiritual helpers, there are three things that sets them apart as master souls. Number one, they mastered their own energy while they were here on planet Earth. Number two, they learned to become one with all. Meaning is it wasn't just some intellectual thing, but they embodied it moment to moment. And it's how they basically showed up in life. Everywhere they go, with whomever they spoke with. And the third one, they outgrew limitations. All this, the spiritual is all this for what we truly take with us. It's not like we leave this and then we leave quote unquote empty handed. Like I said, the physical stuff we all know collectively, yes. We don't take the cars, we don't take the houses, we don't take well, for me, I don't take my video games. I'm not going to take any of that stuff with me. But just what I've experienced and what I've put together and those growth moments and those milestones and those feelings of fulfillment is what I take with me. And that's something for me is I want to prioritize that. So when I'm navigating life and being open to the opportunities and not judging it, and instead think like my guides, like, okay, how would they see this? How is this situation, this opportunity is there to help me feel more free, stronger, better than I was yesterday? Because once you've achieved and felt that, that's a lifetime gift. And you take that with you, right? Like I said, the intangible, after we pass on, after we all quote unquote die, when it's related to the physical body, we're just having a connection with the physical body. But anyway, that's truly what we take with us when we pass on. It's all about what we take forward from this school. And it's like, it comes back to like, I get out of life exactly what I put into it, no more or no less. And if that's the case, well, I want to give it my all so I can receive all that is there for me. Not everything. Let me make a important distinction here. But all that is there for me in my life curriculum and that I wish for any other individual. To embrace all that life has to offer you and me, because it does. And there's all the forces in the universe there to support and back you and me than the opposite. The opposite tends to be the vocal minority, and it can seem like it's overwhelming, but really the reality is there's so much more backing and support out there next to us, inside of us, inside, around us, all out there, all those forces. And that's something I think about with the spear of inspiration. Like when I think about the spear, I remember I was sharing with when we had a little virtual Zoom celebration of the spiritual year of this transition. I think about the word penetration. Okay, and when I at least when I think about the spear, it has the ability to be able to penetrate. And for the sake of this example, I'm talking about where I want to go with this here is that as a soul, as a being of light, with your authenticity, your love, your understanding, your beingness, your light, you have the ability to be able to pierce or penetrate any pollution that may be affecting you or those around you. You're that powerful. And what I've come to find is that when I work in tandem, when I'm working harmoniously with my guidance, rather than me fighting and resisting and not working with them, our powers together feels like that sphere where I can just cut through anything, cut through any obstacle, any negativity, anything that's just, that's not good, that's destructive, that works against all that stuff that can be penetrated and healed and purified. You have that capability. I know I have that capability within myself. But when I don't recognize that, I just need to come back to myself and believe in myself again, to trust myself. And and I feel like if each and every single one of us can practice something out of what I shared, I'm not saying everything, but just moving from that sense of moving guided, moving with purpose, being of service, we can make a lot of waves together. And then I feel like we are collectively. We are. I do believe we're in a much better place than we were decades ago. And that's only speaks to the testament of like who we are, what we are. A soul with a physical body, made in the image of God, capable and powerful creators to manifest and to bring about effect change inside out. Creating change first from the inside and letting it flow and influence outside. And so I just wanted to leave you with those powerful words and take your spear of light with you and just charge forth no matter what happens, no matter what comes up in life, to still show up with your chin up high and to say, I will make it through this. Like I will do it. I will enjoy doing it, and I will learn and grow from it. So, if you made it this far of the episode, I appreciate your time. And again, I just want as a reminder, all this, even though there's some parts I said you, it's up to you if you wanted to take that in personally or not. It's up to you. But if there's anything, really, it's just that there's anything that resonates with you, that resonated, just take a note of that for yourself. Keep it at a place that you can refer to as you navigate this year. It could be maybe you can write like a note for like my spiritual forecast for the spear of inspiration. Like that's something like I'm doing. So that way I have. So if I find myself kind of caught up in something small or over concerned about something small and tiny, to come back and reconnect with the big picture. And I think that's what the purpose can be. It can serve when you do that. If you write on a piece of paper and just write down your notes for the whole spiritual year, for yourself, that is, and just connect back to the big picture by reviewing what resonated with you, what resonates with you. That's a good way to be able to pivot and build resilience whenever something may come to pass that could throw us off track, that can shake us. But no matter what, coming back, that resilience. And so, yeah, I hope you get something out of it. This is a little bit something different that this is something I wanted to kind of improv and kind of flow with. I was just looking at my notes here for like the bullet points, and then with everything else, I was just flowing off the cuff. It's just like, I think that's a term where I'm just like like heat the moment, just sharing what's been coming through, and yeah. And so as we're moving through this spear of inspiration, I wish you the best. I wish you greater fulfillment, greater joy, greater abundance, and and if you're someone that feels like you've been at a place where you've felt lost or you felt sidetracked or it's just or you may feel behind, may you know that you can change all that with a decision right here, right now. And that and that I believe in you. And that it's important that you believe in yourself. And to never give up. To never give up. Because there's so much I want to echo that there's so much support out there. And even more power to you when even with all the support out there, right? Friends, families, our spirit guides, but to be that support system for yourself, to be there for yourself, that right there, that's good relationship building with yourself. And if there's any place to start, all this to say, I would suggest there, in my opinion, starting on that foundational relationship with yourself, believing and being your own special support system, your own supporter. Because it would be unfair for me to expect other people to like be there for me all the time. Like I mean, there are moments when I'm by myself, and it's when those moments enough to myself, it's like, well, I have myself now. Like again, spirit guides aside, it's like our relationship with ourselves, the most important thing, you know, because you're gonna be with yourself forever, because you're an eternal being. And wouldn't it be important to just have a good foundation with yourself, knowing that you're gonna spend an eternity with yourself forever? You know, I mean, it's really, I'm looking at it from that simple perspective. But anyway, like I said, I wish you the best, and yeah, feel free to check back with this if this calls to you. If you need a reminder or something, I always share to be a channel and to be that messenger to share something that someone needs to hear. Like I said, whatever resonates, great. Whatever doesn't, you can toss that aside. Just like, thanks, but no thanks, and just take what you need. That's all I could ever ask for of you, the listener. So this has been another episode of Spiritual Engineered. I'm your host, Alvin Cepeda, signing out. And as always, take care, my dear friend.